Hello and welcome to the annual Video Game Logic Podcast Award Show. This year for the 2017 awards, I'm your presenter, gaming psychologist, and with me, as always, my co-award presenter,
Caffeine Rage.
On today's award show, we are going to be going through the numerous awards that we have created. We spent quite a lot of time putting together a fun show for you guys, and hopefully you do think it is fun. How are you doing today, Rage?
I'm doing fairly well, and we actually put effort into it this year instead of just really showing up and doing our thing.
Yes, indeed. This show is going to be different quite a bit from last year. Last year was a big mess. We wound up with 3 guests on the show, and we had... How many award categories did we have to begin with?
15 or 16, I believe.
Yes, so this time around, it's going to be just me and you, and we have 27 awards to award. Yeah,
with only a handful actually surviving from last year, to be perfectly honest. A few tweaks to some that have kind of mutated, grown together, and grown a third arm. Probably should take them to the doctor for that, to be perfectly honest.
Just drop them in the Fallout universe. Yeah, we only kept a few. It was like 3 or 4. Just straight out of last year, and then we messed with a couple of others, and then all the rest of these are new creations. So we've got some positive ones, some negative ones, some silly ones, some serious ones. So we really hope that you enjoy the show. We have so much stuff to go through. We've broken this episode down into a number of blocks. I think that for our timestamps, I'm just going to do blocks because it's going to be difficult to go through and find each and every single award. And then there's going to be some extra editing and post that Rage isn't going to know about.
Uh-oh.
But he found some special music for us to use, which you will have already heard one of those tracks. And I've got some special music to use. There's also going to be a couple of, it's not exactly messages from our sponsor, but I've got a couple of things that I've already recorded to slot in, just sort of like thank yous to listeners of the show and some of our bigger contributors throughout the year. So we hope that you guys enjoy those as they pop up. And also, this episode is going to be releasing next week, right? So It'll be after Christmas, but before New Year?
Yeah, this will be releasing on the 29th.
Yes. Well, regardless, have a Happy New Year, listeners, and a Merry Christmas, or Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa, or whatever holiday.
Well, at least they're not just saying Happy Holidays, because, that is absolutely terrible, and it's a war on Christmas.
Yes, the war on Christmas. I mean, Happy Holidays is easy to say, but when do I ever do anything that's easy?
You are kind of easy, so.
But without further ado, Rage, would you like to read our opening category for our first block for an award?
We are kicking it off on a high note with our most memorable gaming moment of the year, 2017. And why don't you go first?
Right, so the most memorable moment in gaming for me was when I unpacked and hooked up my 144 hertz monitor. I was just blown away by how different games look at such a high refresh rate. I talked about this last week or a couple of weeks ago on the show, or 3 weeks ago, depending on releases or whatever. But just as I continue to play games at such a high frame rate, even doing things like watching TV, which I know has always been a lower frame rate, but I've always been able to pick up on different frame rates and things, and having played games at such a high frame rate, I'm now watching TV going, this looks weird. It's too slow. And I did try playing a console game at 30 FPS, and it actually made me sick. So, I mean, 144 hertz is amazing. I can't wait to one day in a few years build a better rig and get an even higher refresh rate monitor. I don't know quite how high my specific eyes can differentiate, but, let's see if I can... Don't they make like 250 hertz monitors or something like that? I want one of those.
I think so, but they're stupidly expensive. And, to be able to even get a game running that fast, it's tough on modern hardware.
Well, I said in a few years. Hopefully they'll have more money and technology will be better.
Well, you also have to realize that, I don't mean to dig at consoles. Oh, wait, yes, I do. They're kind of holding back game development, where everything has gone more shiny and high fidelity and to hell with frame rate. There's actually been I was reading an article just earlier today. Oh, I'm blanking on the executive that was talking about how consoles need to stop going such high fidelity and work on actually getting frame rate up. I'll have to go hunt that down for the docket for tomorrow.
All right. But yeah, I mean, just 144 hertz gaming is the most memorable thing for me that's happened gaming-wise in 2017. Yep. What about you?
Mine is, a lot more mundane, I think, is actually completing a playthrough of RimWorld. Because RimWorld isn't an endless game.
I hope that sounds okay.
Well,
clapping.
It sounded more sarcastic.
No, I was seriously clapping for you, because I mean, you've talked at length to me about how difficult RimWorld is. And
yeah, RimWorld is not an easy game. And even with mods, some of them make the game harder, some of them make the game easier. So I always try to balance out, my quality of life with, things that are making things more difficult. Actually getting to the point where you could build the ship to get off-world took me, I think I was in the late 80s, early 90s. This was on my YouTube channel of just, completing the ship and getting off-world. It's a hell of a challenge. It requires a lot of research. It requires a lot of just raw resources. And by the time you get to that point, things are getting a little insane whenever things show up to fight you. So be able to survive that long is quite the thing. And that's not even going into just how much room the ship takes, because it's not exactly a small ship. So it requires a massive expansion to the base, which also stretches your resources even further. And all of that for the song over the credits was just worth it. Hitting that launch button and seeing the credits start to play, it was quite the experience.
Nice. Well, I'm happy to hear that you beat it, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I'm setting up to go all over again.
Maybe that makes you understand just a little bit why I like to play Factorio so much, because you get that same sort of satisfaction when you build your rocket in Factorio.
Yeah, the thing is, RimWorld, it's a lot more smaller individual, self-contained puzzles, figuring out your food situation, figuring out, your defensive situations, figuring out all the weapons and everything, figuring out how you're going to stave off certain types of attacks. It's not easier, and it's not tougher, it's just, it's more different. Self-contained. So it's not, something I built within the first 20 minutes of the save is now screwing me over because I didn't build it big enough. And I have to go strip down all of that and rebuild it. That's not as satisfying to me as figuring out the smaller, more immediate puzzles.
Fair play.
I do want to try Factorio again at some point when they've more settled things, but RimWorld for me for now.
Fair play. I'll be there whenever you want, and I'll help as much as you want and stay back the rest of the time. Just go do silly things.
Speaking of silly things.
Indeed. So our second award category is for the biggest surprise of the year. And this can be anything gaming related, not just specifically like a game or a news article or whatever. So you went first with that one. Wait, no, you let me go first with that one. So you go first with this one.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much whoever reads it goes second.
Sounds good.
So for me, it's just the explosion of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. The Battle Royale genre has had this sort of migrating player base for quite a while, going from survival game to survival game, but never really coalescing into one game for long enough for it to really build up. Matter of fact, just a couple days ago, it was announced that The Calling would be shutting down development, another smaller Battle Royale game, which was very popular for a short amount of time. So seeing the utter explosion that is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, to the point where it's the most popular game on Steam by several times over. Partly fueled by just how popular it's gotten in China, which is a surprise of itself. It's just been phenomenal. I mean, hell, just the test servers for PUBG is in the top 10 of games played on Steam. The test server. I mean, that's something I would have never guessed.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know the test server was in the top 10.
Yeah, the test server was in the top 10. Granted, the test server is also testing out, the new features coming up, so it does make sense that a very popular game would have its test server up, but right now, as we're recording this, the test server is number 4 on Steam.
Wow.
With 180,000 players today, with 79,000 playing right now. And also, PUBG's really, its explosion has been fueled by China. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. They see a huge roller coaster throughout the day, and their peak is not in sync with the rest of the peak time for other games because of the time zone differences. So maybe it's just the Chinese player base that's really surprised me more than anything else. Granted, that's still, absolutely huge without that boost. And the thing is that when I first heard of PUBG, it was on the upcoming games on this podcast, and neither of us knew what the hell it was.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember that?
Yeah, I think so. I had to go look it up. And I think I said at the time, oh, this looks interesting. I might check this out at some point. And then later on, it hit like this level, and I was like, okay, I don't think I'll ever play this now. I don't know. PUBG, just gonna throw a little tease out there for another category later. PUBG's gonna come up again for a special category. So.
Mm-hmm. So what's yours?
Right, so my biggest surprise of the year has to be the success of the Nintendo Switch. When it was debuted last fall, I think, I was really looking forward to seeing it, but myself and a lot of people, a lot of other video game pundits and whatnot had reservations about it. Was it going to be a copy of the Wii U? It seemed to have a little bit better marketing, but there were still lots of areas where Nintendo's marketing didn't make sense, and was it going to do well in other markets besides Japan? How are they going to handle this? How's it going to perform in this whole mixed role? Do people want a console that can sit at home and then also go with them? And it's going to be directly competing with the 3DS, and just so on and so on and so on about all these issues that people were worried about. But the Nintendo Switch has really come out swinging this year, and there have been quite a few really good games that have released on it. It's already outsold the Wii U in less than a year, which, that's not saying too terribly much, but it's still, their console release this time is still doing better than it did last time. And I think a lot of that comes down to the success of their first-party titles that they continually release. But regardless, I'm really happy to see the Switch doing well, because even though Nintendo plays a very different role to Microsoft and Sony in the marketplace, it would have been a shame for them to have failed at this, because there was talk of them pulling out of the home console market for maybe forever if the Switch did poorly. And we don't need less competition in the console marketplace. We already have enough issues with them just going, oh, we just want to make things shiny. So Nintendo's innovation, like Nintendo always Nintendo's it up, and they always swing big, and either it's great or it's a mess, and the Switch seems to be great. So I was really surprised and pleased to see how well the Nintendo Switch has done this year, and I can't wait to buy one. Maybe next year. I was hoping to buy one this year, but personal life circumstances have prevented that.
Oh,
but it'll be around for a while.
So, shall we move on to our next category?
Indeed.
Well, it's still an Early Access Award for those Early Access games who have not actually left Early Access in quite some time.
Yeah, quite some time, as in ever. And the game that I picked for this category is Space Engineers. Space Engineers was, air quotes, released into early access in, I believe,
October 23rd, 2013.
That is correct. So it's been in early access for 4 years. And, I mean, it has undergone continual development during that time. I'll at least give them that compared to some other early access developers. But come on, guys. At some point, you've just got to say that it's done. And then if you want to keep pushing content for it, that's fine. But just say it's released already.
Oh, is that all you have to say about that?
I guess. I mean, I like Space Engineers. I've played it off and on over the years at this point. And half the time they break it when they update it, and half the time they only just make it worse when they update it. Performance-wise, I mean. This game barely runs at 60 on my rig.
Yeah.
I mean, just barely.
Yeah, when I tried it on a free weekend, it was fine in space, but on my rig, on the planetary surface, it was unplayable. Or borderline playable, and with how they patched it, I wasn't holding out hopes to play it for long, so I just said to hell with it. Which is a shame, because I'm interested in this type of game. It's just they've handled it rather poorly.
Yeah, I played it 2 or 3 months ago, and it still had... They had actually improved the performance a little bit, but it still was not... I still had regular dips below 60 on planets. And I mean, that's honestly the most fun thing to do, is to start on a planet, get into space, and do stuff going back and forth. But planets are nigh unplayable.
Okay, well, mine is actually a game I don't like, but the reason why I picked it was that there was news about it coming out next year, as in a full release. DayZ, which released on December 16th, 2013. So, hey, nice timing on that one, huh?
Yeah. Wait, I thought DayZ had come out of early access already.
No, it's still sitting in early access. It's supposed to see a full release next year. And DayZ has a lot more of a rocky development history, because it's gone for long periods of time without any major updates. And for quite a while, literally the only thing I heard from DayZ was some of the extreme things that the lead the developer was doing with his life, which involved nothing to actually develop the damn game. So, yeah. I mean, hell, the Steam store page still has this warning: this game is early access alpha. Please do not purchase it unless you want to actively support development of the game and are prepared to handle with serious issues and possibly interruptions of game. All caps, right at the top of the page, since 2013.
You know, I never gave a shit about DayZ.
I mean, it's
never once.
It's not a genre that I really care about, mostly because it seems like it's a game where people are actively dicks to one another.
Yeah, if it was more cooperative, like I guess if I played it with just friends on a private server or something,
then maybe
that would be okay. But I don't want to play with random people who are just gonna dick me over every 3 seconds.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that pretty much everything I've ever heard of is, people are dicks to one another. But, the fact that they announced that they're planning to do full release next year, and its rocky development history, to the point that I'm not even sure when the last patch was released, because everything on the news front of this on the Steam store page is all various development updates, status reports, but no patch notes that I could see.
Yeah, it's got a lot of negative reviews, like recent negative reviews. People saying the game's never going to come out of early access.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I should have looked this up before. I mean, it's been in here for 4 years on early access, just right over 4 years. And I was looking for unfortunately, it looks like they've updated their records recently, so it doesn't give me a good idea of when they last updated. But yeah, it's been a rocky development that's been handled poorly. I mean, I could have picked a few other things, and maybe if this category sticks around, we'll have maybe something for next year. Because there's always those games that stick around in early access that never progress, sadly. Because some of them actually could be interesting. Granted, not this one, but still.
Indeed. Okay. Well, our next category is one of my favorites once we workshop the title. And it is the Balderdash Award. And this award is for what you're fed up with from the previous year.
Yeah,
Rach, what are you fed up with from
this
last
is more
year?
abstract ideas and not more targeted. But we came into agreement for this one.
That is right. I'll let you say it, though.
Loot boxes.
Fucking loot boxes. 2017 in video games is the year of the loot box.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's just gotten absolutely ridiculous. Particularly towards the end of the year, as hell, it's infected single-player games. It's been the progression system on several EA games. Granted, Battlefront 2 got the brunt of the focus on that, but UFC, what was it? UFC 3?
Need for Speed.
Yeah, both have the progression systems tied, or their multiplayer progression systems. Actually, no, Need for Speed is single player.
Single player, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. The single player on Need for Speed is tied to loot boxes, or just goes sitting around in the damn shop parking lot for 10 minutes waiting for the shops to cycle, which is always so much fun. Need for Speed. If that Need for Speed is 0.
Yep, and then you also have Shadow of War, Call of Duty World War II. What's the Blizzard? Overwatch had big changes to its loot box system this year to make it more shitty.
Yeah, it's just been a huge mess to the point where that EA kicked the hornet's nest and have started to get a lot of government attention to loot boxes and microtransactions in general, actually.
Yeah. Yep, a lot of stuff going on. And was it our last episode or 2 episodes ago where we sort of reviewed the whole thing and said that we'd be back when there's more information?
To be honest, we've talked on for about a month and a half or so. Well, pretty much since just before Battlefront 2 came out.
Yeah, loot boxes were in the title of the episode like 3 or 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah, well, nobody was buying the key to unlock it.
Touche. And unfortunately, I'm sure we'll be back here again at some point in the near-ish future.
Yeah,
talking about it some more. But hopefully 2018 we'll see some changes. Enough consumer backlash causes something to happen.
Well, supposedly the sales numbers for Battlefront 2 is way down and below expectations. So we do have that going for us, which is nice. I mean, hell, EA fucked up a Star Wars game. That takes a special amount of incompetence.
Yeah. Star Wars also really dropped the value of EA's stock too. They only had a few dollars overall, or a few dollars lost per stock, but then whenever you actually go look at their total hit for all of their, whenever you apply that across the board, they lost $3.5 or $4 billion because of Star Wars in stock.
Well, the thing
losses.
is that at the time, EA was still on a upward trend. They've seen a dip for the last 6 months, but they've kind of stabilized. So we'll have to see how things go. I mean, they're on, December the 4th, they hit a all-time low for the last 3 months. I can't imagine why.
Yeah. Like you said, though, you have to try really hard to fuck up a Star Wars game.
Yeah. I mean, granted, they are still up on the year, but they lost a good 6 months of progress on their stock price, which is quite impressive whenever you think about it. Their stock, last time it was this low was in July. What did they fuck up in July?
I don't know.
Or maybe it was just a cycle, because that's how the market works. Is it does work in cycles and works in trends. So that's the thing, is that if it continues to slip, then it's going to be a problem for them. But they are still up for the year, and that's really where these companies reside, is in the here and now in their stock price, not what will happen in the future because of their current actions.
Yeah. I was just looking to see if I could see what they released in June. But that doesn't really matter right now. This is the award show.
And speaking of awards, let's give out another one. To the best free-to-play game.
Indeed. So my nominee for best free-to-play game, my award, goes to World of Warships, the free-to-play game that I've played more than any other free-to-play game this year, and possibly more than some other games I've played in general. I love World of Warships. I like ship and naval games and naval combat, so it's got that going for it for me. I like that overall it's a slower-paced game than many other multiplayer games, shooters or otherwise. There's, especially at the beginning, a nice little planning phase. Very rarely is combat super frantic, and, I'm getting old, becoming an old cynic, so I like to take my time with things a bit.
Hanging out with me too much.
And as far as free-to-play games go, I think World of Warships has got a really good monetization model. And even though they have loot boxes in them, I feel like they use them appropriately because they're awarded to you via gameplay for experience rewards throughout the day. And aside from having a couple of consumables that you can buy, they just do a premium currency, which allows you to purchase special ships and boost your XP and things like that. So I don't feel like it's an exploitative model. And most of the best gameplay centers around the sort of mid to upper mid tier games like 5, 6, and 7, where most players are. So you can go all the way up to 8, 9, and 10 and compete on the higher level, but the most fun gameplay happens between tiers 5 and 7. So you don't have to play for a cajillion hours to be able to actually enjoy the game. So I feel like it's a good all-round free-to-play game, and then also I like ships. So World of Warships, yay!
I can only imagine what you think of your ship, because I know you.
I like my ships. They're all very pretty.
Okay, well, for me, it is Warframe. This one is sort of a mixture of just cooperative, but also solo gameplay, depending on your focus. And Warframe had an absolutely massive update this year, putting in its first open world level, just an absolutely massive, I think it's like 3 square kilometers of field to go run around and shoot things, mining, fishing, and causing all sorts of havoc. And it has constant events to mix out the gameplay. And it's fast-paced, but because it's not competitive for the most part, I mean, there are PvP modes, but the focus is the PvE content. There's not as huge an emphasis on balance. So, yes, there are things that are more powerful than others, but it doesn't matter as much because, it's all shooting the computer. And I've always found that there hasn't been a particular gun or a particular Warframe that I felt was so underpowered that it was absolutely useless. There's a good balance to just about everything. Granted, some things don't fit my playstyle, but that's my playstyle and not them being underpowered. And that's a key difference. And the model for it, because of its PvE aspect, a lot of you're able to do is through either trading or buying the premium currency, which is tradable. So if you want something that is premium currency only, but you don't want to shell out the bucks, well, maybe you have something that you could trade to another player for the premium currency and buy it yourself, which is an interesting way to do it. And it's just seeing the premium currency itself being tradable is a rarity, to be perfectly honest. Oh, and no loot boxes. The closest thing you get is occasionally the random login reward. And that's the absolute closest thing you get to a loot box.
Hooray, no loot boxes.
That sounded sarcastic.
No.
Are you sure?
Yes. There's proper ways to implement loot boxes, but the most proper way to implement a loot box is to not have it.
The only winning move is not to play.
Correct, Amundo.
But yeah, Warframe, there's always something to do. It is a grind, I will be perfectly honest. A lot of these free-to-play games are in some respect. But just because there's so many weapons, or so many different warframes, which are essentially your classes, and so many different goals that you could work towards, it gives you the freedom to really, kind of build what you want. It's more of a sandbox, to be perfectly honest, with some loosely defined rules on various gameplay elements. And the only time you really have to interact with people is for the extremely high-end stuff. Otherwise, you could just go on your own.
Yeah. Fuck interacting with people.
Yeah, and get off my fucking lawn.
Yeah. Alrighty. Is that all you have to say before I pick up the next category? Alright. Our final award for our first block is one of the favorite ones that I came up with. The No School Like the Old School Award. This award is being given to a game whom its most recent sequel or spiritual successor is worse than the previous iteration in the franchise.
Yeah, and I'll go first. Even though I didn't play its follow-up this particular year, it still deserves it. The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. I was torn on giving it between Oblivion and Morrowind, because I really dislike Skyrim. And Oblivion, yes, it is different from Morrowind, but Morrowind is also a lot more jank, so it's kind of figuring out the happy balance between the two. And yeah, it's just been, I've been so disappointed in Skyrim, and just seeing it, for lack of a better term, hoard out. How many times have it been re-released at this point, or been ported? I've lost count.
At this time, it would be easier to say what it's not been ported to. So far it's not made it to my fridge. I think that's about it.
Yeah, it's just absurd how many times they poured it and how much they've really worked that title. Granted, I understand, they are a business. They have to make their money. And, also get as many vectors for those paid mods as possible, which makes me very leery of the next Elder Scrolls game, to be perfectly honest. Because just how much are they going to strip down from Skyrim, which is already kind of bare bones, to push some of the paid mods? It's disappointing.
Fingers crossed.
Besides, Oblivion has one of the best expansions out there, if not the best. It's kind of torn between that and a couple of others for me. The Shivering Isles is just an amazing expansion. And a complete tone shift, to be perfectly honest, from Oblivion, which is kind of sort of generic fantasy. But then the Shivering Isles is just this madcap, absolutely absurd world.
Yeah, I think the Shivering Isles is my favorite DLC or expansion that's ever been released for an RPG ever.
Well, this is going to shock you, but I think mine is actually one of the Borderlands DLCs.
Wow. You won't touch Borderlands with a 10-foot pole.
Just because I'm so burnt out on it, but I really loved Tiny Tina's DLC on that.
I hated Tiny Tina. She was so annoying.
Yeah, I will give you that. She was fucking annoying, but at least in that, it was still doled out in very small chunks. And plus, the overall theme of the expansion was very heartfelt. Once you got past, Tiny Tina's. Do you want me to give you the spoiler on that?
You can if you want.
It was her basically coming to grips with Roland's death.
Oh.
Because the entire time she's saving a spot for him, and Roland is this great hero in the game world. And finally she breaks down and says, "I know that he's dead."
Good for you, Tina. Tiny Tina, facing your demons.
Still annoying as hell, but that kind of catapulted it for me.
Right. Okay.
But we got off track, didn't we?
Yeah. What else is new? My award is going to the other, I think the most obvious one out there for this year. Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Classic.
So classic, I should say, is the winner. The modern Battlefront 2, just ignoring the microtransactions for a minute. I know it's really hard, but just for 1 minute, let's just look at all the other stuff in the game. It still doesn't have as much stuff in it as the Battlefront 2 Classic. It's got roughly the same amount of maps and roughly the same amount of hero units. It's got less classes overall, though. It's got less vehicles. It doesn't have the Galactic Conquest mode. It doesn't have the full-fledged space battles that Battlefront 2 Classic does, which has space combat, whether you're destroying fighters and capital ships, and also you could land inside the hangar bay of the main enemy capital ship and do damage to it inside. So, aside from graphics, and it has one thing more than Classic. I think it is more hero units. I think it's got a few more hero units, actually. But in all other respects, it's either the same or worse than Battlefront 2, which came out in 2005. And that just blows my mind. But, that goes back to what we've talked about before, about how games nowadays, or in the last few years, have been all about, let's make it as shiny as possible, as pretty as possible. Let's throw all other things out the window. And probably one of the reasons that Battlefront 2 is, even though they added a lot of stuff to it compared to the 2015 Battlefront, I'd say it was ham-fisted quite a bit by the microtransaction system, because they focused on making that the center of the game as opposed to spending more time adding the content that people requested. Because
I like the single-player campaign.
Yeah, the single-player campaign. And, Battlefront 2 Classic had a single-player campaign, but it was better. The Battlefront 2 Classic campaign is better than the one in this Battlefront 2. It's not as shiny, but it's longer and tells a better story.
Well, to be fair, the Phantom Menace tells a better story.
That's pretty hard to do.
Based on everything I've heard, because I'll be perfectly honest, I have zero interest in playing the new Battlefront 2. But from everything that I've heard, it ended in a cliffhanger to be resolved in DLC, which has come out, and everything I've heard about that has been rather lackluster. They keep cutting away from the action to go play a hero unit for a while, which honestly, from the sounds of things, is just trying to tease you to go, spend that money on the loot boxes to try to get the hero units. It's just, it's a complete mess. How did they fuck up Star Wars? I mean, Star Wars as a license should just be able to print money.
Yep, they did a real good job messing it up. But, the Battlefront 2 Classic is a much better game. Oh, the other thing that I couldn't think of a minute ago was that you can actually have larger multiplayer battles in Battlefront 2 Classic than you can in the new Battlefront 2. New Battlefront 2 is limited to 40 players for a multiplayer match. Battlefront 2 Classic is 64. And Battlefront 2 Classic also has bots. Battlefront 2 Modern does not.
Yeah, this whole Battlefront 2 thing is confusing.
Yeah. Real Battlefront 2 and shitty Battlefront 2.
Yeah, I was about to say shitty Front 2.
Oh, yeah. But that is my nominee for the No School Like the Old School Award. And with that brings us to the close of our first block of games. So enjoy a message from our sponsors, which is going to be me.
I apologize for anything Jared's about to do. He did not clear this with me, which is probably why he was able to do it.
Tee. Hello everyone, and thank you very much for listening to the 2017 VGL Awards show. I hope you are enjoying the show so far. I'd like to just take this opportunity to thank everyone who has supported us on Patreon this year. While we've had the number vary up and down, we still greatly value everyone's contributions. It's because of your contributions that we're able to host our site on podbean.com and also able to occasionally advertise and bring in new listeners. So I just, again, want to thank you guys for supporting the show. It really means a lot to us. We would do the show regardless of whether or not you gave us money, but the fact that you do lets us, we feel, produce it to the best of our abilities. And hopefully one day the show will grow even larger than we can imagine. And part of that would be thanks to the Patreon contributors. So thank you guys very much once again for supporting the show. All right, and welcome back to the VGL Awards 2017.
I'm sorry for whatever Jared just subjected you to.
We are now starting our second block of awards, and I believe it's your turn to read the award, Rage.
It's the Off the Wall Game Award. The strangest game that we played this last year.
Indeed, and this award quite handedly goes to Doki Doki Literature Club for me. I mean, there was no deliberation on this one. I just was like, oh, Doki Doki.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you can't really talk about it.
I can't really talk about it, yeah. It's the things that I can say, in case you missed it a couple episodes ago when I mentioned it on the show. It starts out as a dating sim, but relatively quickly, or visual novel dating sim, but relatively quickly turns into a different type of game. And you should definitely heed the warnings when you start the game that say that it has some disturbing content and imagery in it. It's not fooling around, it really does. But if you can get past all that stuff, it's a really excellent game that, well, does some weird stuff. And it's free, so just stop listening to me not be able to tell you about it and just go play it.
Well, they should probably wait till the end of the podcast.
I mean, they can always just pause it and come back later.
Maybe. Mine is Dogo Lax. I'm not sure how to actually pronounce it. It's such a weird, I guess, adventure platformer would be the proper term. It's inspired by Another World, so that should tell you right away that things get weird very quickly. And to be perfectly honest, after playing it for, like 20 or 30 minutes, I had no idea what the hell was going on. It just seemed like going from one random scene to another. As a matter of fact, I went through most of what they show in the Steam store, various screenshots. Those are all within the first 30 minutes of gameplay. Completely different areas.
Yeah,
and it was
I
just
remember this
strange.
Yeah, I remember you talking about this earlier this year and looking at this stuff. It looks weird.
Yeah, it is very weird. And I'll be perfectly honest. It seemed like they had a ton of different ideas of what they wanted to do for game scenes. And just like, okay, let's put them all in and have some sort of loose connection going between them. And that's it.
Hey, if it works, though.
I mean, it is highly rated, so granted, it's not a lot of ratings, so. If you get past the weirdness, sure, but it just wasn't for me.
Well, alrighty then. Is that all you have to say about it?
Yep.
All right, our next award is the Drop It Like a Hot Rock Award. And this award is given to a game who or what we played for a short amount of time and went, this is garbage, and then stopped playing it.
Yeah, I had, for me, it was a toss-up between the award winner and the award winner for a later category. Well, I could say what it is, my least favorite game, because both of them could have been a contender for this. So I went with Harvest Life for the Drop It Like a Hot Rock Award. It is I believe it's early access. I actually didn't check to see what it was. Essentially, Harvest Moon-like, or inspired by Stardew Valley. You get a letter from your grandfather to say to come to the farm and to work for it. Work on it. He's retiring and going to the city because hell if I know. And it is very, very, very rough. It's very confusing on what it does, because it says to go do things, but it doesn't tell you where or how to do them. It doesn't have a map for the farm. It doesn't give you any direction indicators. Oh, and if you talk to your grandfather while you're halfway through the tutorial, it resets the fucking tutorial.
Well, that's stupid.
No. As in, it resets the goals, but not your progress. So it tells you to go water the fields. So I watered the fields. It's like, okay, how do I go feed the livestock? Because I don't see an indicator for where the hell the livestock is. Maybe it'll tell me where the livestock is. It reset the indicator to water the fields. The fields were watered. I couldn't do it again.
Well, that's stupid.
Yeah. And on top of that, there was a bunch of bad collision / invisible walls. Have you ever ran into a game that they didn't get the hit detection on things right, so you always kind of clipped on things and got stuck?
Yeah.
This did it all over the place. Every single weed in the fields, every single piece of fence in the fields had some sort of jutting out small invisible wall that, yes, it could be fixed, but at the same time, in 20 minutes, I'm done. I'm finished.
Right. Well, 20 minutes is about how long I played my game that won the Drop It Like a Hot Rock Award. And that game is Tech Wars Online 2. If our dear listeners will remember that this is the only game, or the most negative I've ever been about a game, ever. I fucking hated this game. Every bit of it was bullshit. I'm getting mad just thinking about it, and it's been 4 months? 5 months
You've been hanging
since
out
I
with me
played
too
it.
much.
It's so bad. So bad. It runs like garbage. It's laggy as hell because it's a multiplayer game. It doesn't control well. The rules don't make sense. It's just, the whole thing is bullshit. I played it for 15 to 20 minutes, and I was like, fuck it. I'm never playing this game again. This was another one, by the way, that I didn't have to think about at all. This was like, fuck Tech Wars Online 2. This game is garbage, so it was so bad, it won an award for being bad.
And for you to be this angry about it really says something, because you're not the extreme one here.
No. Typically, I can find a redeeming quality in anything, but this game has no redeeming qualities.
Such anger. Damn that rap music.
The best part about the game is turning it off.
Wow.
And then slitting my wrists.
Shouldn't you install
Maybe that's
it
a little
first?
extreme. Yeah, I should probably do that first. But yeah, I have nothing else to say about that piece of garbage, except it sucks, and I'm never playing it again, and I hope it dies.
Well. So should we talk about something that you don't like?
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, moving along to the least favorite game played in 2017.
Right, so I actually had a hard time coming up with this, because, there are lots of
You don't want
bad
to list
games
Tech Wars Online 2?
Well, I didn't want to list it twice. And also, to me, the spirit of this is it's a game that I played for a while, and I wanted to I tried to but I just couldn't get into it. And because of how Rockstar treats Grand Theft Auto 5 and GTA Online as basically two separate entities, I felt comfortable putting GTA Online as my least favorite game of 2017. It's just not fun. I wanted to like it. I wanted to be able to play it with our friends that have this game and that do enjoy it, but they've just turned it so much into a grind fest and so much into trying to funnel you into purchasing their shark cards, which is, you know, the equivalent of their microtransactions, that it just takes so long to get anything. And you can get some basic stuff quickly, but if you want the cool stuff, you're going to be playing for hours and hours and hours, grinding repetitive, not fun content. And I just don't have time for that shit in my life. Even now, when I have more free time than I've had in a while, I just don't have the time to put into it. Plus, it doesn't run well. Their servers are slow as hell. It's boring. It's just not fun. And so I went with that just because to me it was like a game that I played. I wanted to like. I really wanted to get into it, but I just couldn't. And I don't like it. And honestly, I haven't played GTA 5, the single player, because of how I feel about GTA Online. I just like, every time I open up and I see it, I'm like, nah, I don't think I want to be a part of this at all. And I've never beaten the single player of GTA 5. I've gotten past the second heist in the main story. For those who have played it and know where I would be. So, what's your least favorite game played in 2017? And did you have a different sort of criteria for it?
Well, for me, it was the other option for Drop It Like a Hot Rock, because this was also one that I just dropped very quickly because I absolutely hated it. It is a visual novel called Crystal City. This is a more adult-oriented, trying to just pass itself off on titillation. It's a Russian visual novel, which would be a red flag right away. And from what I could tell, it's also machine translated, giving some very jank wording to things, giving some wrong wording to things. You know, homophones are difficult for machine translation. So it's tough to read. The art isn't that great. I mean, it's passable, but it's not good. And it just turned me off so quickly that, you know, it's just, no. And like I said, this was my other contender for Drop It Like a Hot Rock, and I could have swapped either of these out and, yeah, still had my award be pretty valid, to be perfectly honest, because I really dislike both of these.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I just interpreted the least favorite a little bit differently. Well, but, I mean, we just decided on what the categories were. We didn't specify. The only rule we specified was that one of us can't nominate the same game more than twice.
Yeah, which I did hit twice on a couple of mine, so. But, oh well. I mean, I didn't break that, so. At least as far as that counted.
Indeed. Okay. My turn to read. Our next award is the Time Sink Award, and this goes to a game that you've played 50 hours or more in the last year. I originally had this set at 100 hours, but you bumped it down to 50.
Yeah, well, also to kind of open up things, but for me, it's RimWorld once again, which could have easily surpassed the 100, even though it doesn't show that much time on my Steam account. That's because a lot of it's undocumented on a copy of my RimWorld save file, or on my game that's not counted in Steam because it's outside the Steam architecture.
Right.
But RimWorld, it's one of those games that, as I was testing various mods and things for my series on it, there was several times that I started playing, and next thing I know, I look up and several hours have passed. Yeah. And this was, on top of the countless hours that I already put into it, recording it. So, yeah, I think it definitely counts for me.
Yep. Yep. Mine is Factorio. I actually had several games that I've played more than 50 hours, and I had several games that I played more than 100 hours too. But I was going through and looking, and at the top of that list is Factorio. So the main reason it's there is it's just the one that I played the most. It's going to be, I think, my second or maybe my third game. I think I'm over 500 hours in KSP. So it's going to be my third game to hit 500 hours on Steam at this rate. But I mean, I've talked at length about Factorio. The thing that just keeps me coming back, between the fact that they keep updating and adding things to it, Factorio was also, honestly, I considered it for the, though this is still an early access award because it's been in early access for 2 or 3 years, but they do keep adding lots of new content to it and tweaking stuff, and every time something gets tweaked and you move to the new release of the game, it's like, oh, does this change how I'm going to build my factory complex?
And for me, it would be no, because it would be built poorly anyway.
Well, that's part of the fun, is you build shitty for a while, and then you figure out how to build stuff better and better and better. But they've changed up, in the most recent couple of updates, they changed how nuclear power works to make it even more powerful and efficient and useful in the early game. So I played through an entire game without using solar power at all. Except, well, without using solar power to power any of my main base. I would just use solar power to go and stick out radar dishes on the perimeter without having to run an entire set of power lines to it. That way I could expand my map and monitor for when the aliens would be coming. But, yeah, just every time I finish a game of Factorio, like, you can keep playing after you launch your rocket. There's certain sciences you can only unlock with the science packs that you get from launching rockets into space. But every time I launch a rocket, I'm like, okay, I want to start over and I want to do this different this time, or try this way, because it's got several different ways that you can play through. I mean, you have to go through the tech tree the same, but how you manage your base can be different in quite a few ways. So I always will start a new game and be like, all right, I'm going to try it this way this time and see how it goes. And I'm a bot man. Kyle is a main bus man. And ne'er the twain shall meet, it seems.
I know some of these words.
It's fun, and it keeps me coming back. And I've recently finished a playthrough, and I'm taking a little break, and then I'm going to start again and see what I can do differently.
Okay, so the next award, and the last one for the block, yes, we've gotten through this one very quickly.
Indeed.
Is the Rittering Time Award for the best mobile game that we played.
Right. And so we came up with this title, or I did, I think. This one was
I think that one was yours.
Because you've said that you will play mobile games on your phone while you let videos render. So I thought that would be a cute callback for how to do it. But I've never talked about this game on this show. It's the mobile game that I've been playing the longest this year. I probably started playing it back in February or March. And I get my phone out and play with it and still continue to play with it. It's called Colonizer. It is a mobile game where that you play against the computer, and there's some parameters you can set for the size of your galaxy and whatnot. And you start with one planet, and you just drag your finger out from your planet, and you launch colony ships at other planets in the solar system, and you win when you've conquered all of the planets in the solar system. And different sized planets produce colony ships at a different rate, and as you play, you can unlock different types of ships. So, the basic colony ship colonizes for 1 point and damages an enemy colony for 1 point. There's ships you can do that don't do any damage, so they're only good for colonizing neutral planets, but they do 2 points of have 2 points of colonization. There's ships you can get that go faster, but are less accurate, so they might not go perfectly straight. And then once you get far enough, you can unlock special modifiers. There's this, I think it's called Galaxy Goo, that your ships go faster through the Galaxy Goo and enemy ships go slower. You can get taco defense platforms.
Oh, well, I know what you use all the time because I'm looking at it on here. How will you use the gay ray?
Yep, there's a gay Ray.
Well, why shouldn't it be happy?
But there's just like a lot of fun and silly stuff. It's actually a pretty challenging game once you turn the AI up to higher difficulties, or if you play on a really big galaxy, just because even the stupid AI have so many planets that they can get to that it's hard to conquer them. But it takes 5 to 10 minutes to play around through, and there's no microtransactions. You can either slowly unlock things as you go, or you can pay, I think it's $3, $2 or $3, and it just unlocks everything. But I mean, I've unlocked everything just by playing it, so tis a fun little mobile game that's a good little time sink. And like I said, I'm pretty sure I've never talked about this on the show. It's just been something that I play here and there whenever I'm in the mood.
Yeah, which is the same for me. Mine is Picrossmon. It's a Picross game, which if you don't know what that is, think of essentially Sudoku, a puzzle game set out on a grid with numbers along the side. And the idea is to reveal the hidden picture by filling in the blocks. So let's say you have a 10 by 10 grid. Well, if on one row it says there's 5 blocks there, well, you need to figure out where those 5 blocks are by using both that row and figuring out, okay, so there's 5 blocks on this row. The row that goes vertically through it says that there's a possible block here, and essentially process of elimination, filling in the grid. And as you fill in the grid, it narrows down the field more and more to figure out how to solve the puzzle. And Picrossmon is one of, I would say, 2 or 3 that I've been playing. Granted, I can't play the largest ones on my phone because they're just too big. I play up to about a 20 by 20 grid, and which is about the max my phone could really handle. And it's just very simple puzzle game. There are ads in the game, but they're only in between puzzles, and puzzles, depending on the size and the complexity of them, can take quite a while. But overall, it's not a bad little puzzler, but just never really a time to talk about it. It's been something I'll pick up, mess around with a puzzle for a while, and put down after a rendering.
This looks cute. I'm looking at it on the Google Play Store.
Yeah, it has some rather abstract puzzles. There's a couple different modes. There's a mode where it's all individual pictures where you'll slowly figure out it's a moose. And I'm not joking, because that's actually been one of my recent puzzles. And then there's a more overarching puzzle mode where you have chunks of a larger puzzle that you're slowly filling in. And it's there's that moment of discovery of figuring out what the hell kind of squint your eyes so you kind of blur it a little bit, and no longer see the blocks but see the picture itself.
It looks cute. I like the art style. I might check this out.
I've been able to play on it for quite a while. I'm nearly done with the story, but it's just a series of kind of interconnection puzzles on the 10 by 10 grid, and I'm slowly going up to the 15 by 15. And it's something that at first, if you don't know how to solve a Picross puzzle, it's rather tough. But once you figure out kind of the tricks of how to do it, you can solve the smaller ones pretty quickly. And there's also the different modes where you could have it where you have limited lives, so you can only get 9 incorrect guesses, which adds an element of suspense. I've screwed up a couple times. Do I really want to risk it?
Right. Sounds interesting. Looks interesting. I'm definitely going to download that and check it out. Found a new game right here on the award show.
And what else we found is our second break.
That is right. So, it's time for another sponsored message from me. Hello again, everybody. It's another word from your favorite sponsor. That is me. I just want to take this opportunity to thank the contributors to our show, the good folks who send us in audio letters, text letters, questions for the Question of the Week segment that has become a thing to our surprise, but we enjoy it and we appreciate your contributions. Some of the biggest contributors we've had this year would obviously be Jim3535. You send in both a number of questions and a number of text letters, and we greatly appreciate that. We've also had some other big contributors throughout the year in Kyle and Chemist, so just a shout out to you guys specifically, but to anyone who's ever sent anything in the past 2 years really, but specifically this year, we just want to thank you, and we want to encourage you to continue to do so. We love interacting with our audience, and I promise that streams are coming back real soon, sometime at the beginning of the new year, so we'll build that interaction back up again. And welcome back to Block 3 of the VGL Awards 2017. Here to kick us off on our next category is going to be me, because you did the last one.
Yep.
This category is one of yours, called the Niche Scratcher. And this is an award that goes to the game that just sort of hits all the right buttons of ours.
Yeah, and for me, it's one that I actually played last year, but I picked up again during the summer. Super Mega Baseball Extra Innings. There's not a lot of sports games on PC, really in general, is there? And let alone one that's actually enjoyable. They always feel kind of bargain basement, kind of off-brand. But Super Mega Baseball Extra Innings is genuinely a good, if arcadey, baseball game. That kind of scratched that itch of wanting to play a baseball game, but not wanting to, shell out for a console to be able to play one of the official MLB games. They still make more than one MLB game, right?
I have no idea.
I know Madden's just the only football game in town now. Granted, I'm not a huge sports fan, but I do like the occasional sports game. So, having an arcadey baseball game to be able to play, is a good niche to scratch for me.
Looks like there's MLB and then RBI.
Then there's MOUSC.
Out of the Park.
What?
Those seem to be recurrent franchises.
Well, Out of the Park, that's a baseball sim.
Oh. Well, I just went to Wikipedia and looked up list of baseball games. Or baseball video games.
Yeah, and Out of the Park is on PC, but it's a simulation. It's a management sim.
Okay.
So, not quite the same thing. But I do have to say this is probably my favorite award title, by the way.
What? The
Niche Scratcher.
Niche Scratcher?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good one. It's a good one.
So, what scratched your niche?
Yeah. That would be Transport Fever. I thought about this one for a little while because there's quite a few games that sort of fit my niche. It's got to be something that involves management and that is slow-paced and is more about planning and proper execution as opposed to anything else. And I've always liked trains, but after I had a kid, I really liked trains even more. They just became special because my kid loves trains. So, Transport Fever, despite the fact that it came out last year, is still a game that I played over 100 hours this year, and it really scratches that itch, that niche of being a management game that's all about, well, mostly about trains. There's trucks and planes and boats in Transport Fever, but it's still mostly about the trains. And they've continued to add stuff to the game, and it's very open to modders, so you can get lots of extra content for it. For free, that is. No loot boxes or microtransaction involved. And it's a really solid game with lots and lots of trains and things, and it just scratches that itch to manage and build and play with trains.
So, moving along to our next category, the greatest disappointment of the year for anything gaming related.
Yep, and I picked a specific game for this category.
Yeah, mine's more of an abstract idea.
Yeah, I thought long and hard about all of the disappointing things that happened this year, particularly in
remember gaming related.
Yeah, the latter. Yeah, particularly the latter half of the year. But really, for me, I have to give it to Destiny 2. I loved the first Destiny. I played over 100 hours of it. I think something like 150 hours of it on Xbox One several years ago. And, you know, when they said they were bringing Destiny 2 to PC, I was so happy because then I could play it on my PC, and it was already a great handling game. And if it played so well on console, I couldn't wait to play it on PC with proper gaming hardware at a proper frame rate. But then they released it, and it was filled with microtransactions and just garbage. Just so much garbage. And it has continued throughout the year, the remainder of the year, to be a saga of bullshit, because they've had several news controversies regarding lying to players about their amount of XP that they receive. Most recently, their update blocked content to people who, or not their update, their first DLC or expansion blocked content from people who didn't have it because it changed the minimum level requirements for certain activities, which you couldn't hit if you didn't have the new DLC. It's very MMO type stuff, which is shitty, but Destiny's always been like, no, we're not an MMO. We wouldn't do that, but yet they're doing MMO stuff.
Kotaku has an article today. Destiny 2's lack of transparency infuriates players yet again. And the only reason why I know about it is because it popped up on r/games. So yeah, it's been a perpetual thing. Yeah,
I'm just really disappointed because I love Bungie. Like, the Halo series is one of my favorite sci-fi franchises of all time. And they started that, and the original Destiny was great. It wasn't, like, perfect. There were a lot of problems with it, for sure, but as just a game to play, it was a joy. So, you know, Destiny 2 has got a better story, and a better single-player campaign, and all the lore's in the game, and it's on PC with higher frame rates and mouse and keyboard control. But their business model and just constantly obfuscating and lying to the players has just made me sad. So, Destiny 2, biggest disappointment of the year for me.
Yeah, and for me, it's just the fall AAA gaming lineup in general, because it's been a lot of shit, and really everything has overshadowed anything positive. That I can't even really think of it off the top of my head. Anything great that came out during the fall. Yeah, we could say things like pretty much all the Nintendo releases, but they've been so overshadowed by the controversy that is Shadow of War, the controversy that is Destiny, or should I say the controversies, yeah, the plural there, from Destiny 2. All the shit from EA. It's just been going on and on and on and on, and it's just greatly disappointed me. I'm not sad, AAA gaming. I'm just horribly, horribly, horribly disappointed in you. And considering the low bar I set for you already, that is quite the accomplishment.
Just picturing you as a dad and AAA as like a little kid. Now, son.
And they've shit their pants again.
You're 9. You're too old to be regularly shitting your pants. Everybody has accidents sometimes, son, but you have them all the time.
Yeah, but see, his friends gave him a couple bucks to be able to do it.
Well, that changes everything. Oh.
He wanted to unlock the brown pants.
Yeah, well, he got them all right. So, our next award category is another one that I'm quite pleased with, because I'm the one who thought of it, and it's the Maybe I'm Old award, which is given to the game that we, as old, ornery men,
get off my fucking
least
lawn,
understand. And this is another one where we chose the same game, but because I read it, you can read out the game.
PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I'll be damned if I can figure out why this is so popular. Not that it's popular or people play it, because it is a battle royale game and it does have that migratory player base. But just the amount that it's captured people is just, I don't get it.
Yep. Same here. And this is not us saying that we think that the game is bad or anything like that. I personally don't think that the game is bad.
Just bland.
I just don't understand it. It doesn't look fun to me. It doesn't look engaging to me. It doesn't look good to me. But apparently, obviously to 20-something million people or more, this is a game that they really enjoy.
Yeah, but remember, they can fund an event, so they have to sell loot boxes.
Yeah, it has loot boxes, and that sucks. It's a bad mark, PUBG. Bad. But still, I mean, it's got a huge player base, and they all seem to love it. And, it's top of the watched games on Twitch. It's top of the most played list on Steam. So, it's obviously doing something right, but just, maybe we're old, and we just don't understand it. I know that in our audience, Ghost Shark has played it, and he says that it's fun. And I'm glad that you get it, Ghost Shark. Explain it to us. Or me, at least.
I mean, if I wanted to run 20 minutes to just get randomly shot and to do it all over again, I'll just load up, Plant Side.
Yeah. I just go for a run in the woods behind my house.
Get out the deer costume.
Some of the rednecks back there would probably shoot me.
Yeah, but to be fair, it wouldn't be randomly because you would hear the banjos first.
That's true. That's very true. So yeah, PUBG gotten a couple of awards on this award show.
Yeah. They got awards in real award shows, just not the negative ones that we're giving them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. My giving it to the biggest surprise of the year is, kind of a backhanded compliment.
And those are the best kind of compliments to give.
Yeah, especially when they're slapped upside the head. So, how about the Video Game Logic Award? This is for a game displaying a good example of, video game logic.
Indeed. This was another one that I thought of. And again, another one I'm very proud of. I mean, we're called Video Game Logic. Why not have an award for a game that has video game logic? So my choice for this was Oblivion. I've been playing Oblivion quite a bit here recently, and God, is Oblivion full of video game logic. Asking you to, find a key to unlock a door, even though the door's, half broken down and you could just walk through it. Or, you successfully snuck inside of a house, there's nobody there, you steal something, you walk outside, and a guard, stop right there, criminal scum. It's what are you doing? You didn't see me steal anything. Or, waiting inside of a shop, just waiting until after all the shops are closed, and then going and stealing things. Why wouldn't the shopkeeper be like, hey, get the fuck out of my store, it's closing time.
Well, if you want to go by this line, you could always go with Skyrim, where you could put buckets on people's heads.
That is true, but...
See, I've been good for broken game mechanics like that. Should I go with mine? Mine is a recent game that I've been playing, and actually the most recent Sunday sampler as of this recording. A JRPG / visual novel called Omega Quintet. And in this world, magical girls are fighting this demonic, mysterious presence that is slowly killing everyone, but it's also upbeat and happy. And this is the sub-species of magical girls where they're all singers because video game logic. Now, I mean, that's probably enough right there, but they are trying to explain the progression system of this game and, why, as you progress through the game, you get more powerful and doing combat a certain way and having a more stylish combat, even though it's not the most efficient combat. And as a matter of fact, in some cases, you're actually hampering yourself to make it look more stylish and, doing more damage to yourself because you get bonuses for like killing multiple monsters in in the same turn because it's a turn-based JRPG system. But in order to set that up, you have to damage them down this certain amount, but instead of killing one off and then killing the next one off, you're still taking that extra damage. And they say that the reason they do it this way is because the more fans that these idols have, these magical girls, the more powerful they get. And the main character actually asks, well, how does that work? Why does that work that way? And they say, we don't know, it just does.
Oh, that's amazing. Is this the game that you were telling me about?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I think you'd actually like it.
I think I would too.
But yeah, it stuck out in my mind as a good example of video game logic. And then I saw the award. It's like, well, I know what that one's going to be. I don't even have to think about that one.
This girl has a gun.
Yeah. She has a sniper rifle. And she's also very timid and shy and wants to stay at a distance. And she uses a sniper rifle because she doesn't have to get up close and personal with the monsters.
That makes sense. Does she also sing and dance then?
Yes.
Okay.
There's not a lot of singing and dancing in this game. At least yet. But there is a fully editable dance modifier and video player. So you can build your perfect idol concert. And no, I'm not joking about that.
This sounds amazing. I'm so excited. Oh. Okay. Cool. Okay, so for our next category...
Are you okay over there? Do you need a moment?
I'm trying to decide if I want to buy this right now or not. It's 40% off, but it's still $20.
And it's going to be 40% off till January.
So it won't go any cheaper during the Steam sale. I don't think. I'll think about it. I'll probably end up buying this, though. I've been wanting to play a JRPG here lately.
It has a surprisingly in-depth battle system. That's why the Sunday sampler was delayed. I wanted to spend some more time with it because you get damage bonuses based on how far away the monsters are and various elemental affinities of the different girls. And as you level up their weapon proficiency, you get extra attacks with weapons. It's very in-depth. It's a far better combat system than this game deserves. And that sounds like a hell of a backhanded compliment, but I mean it like that.
Nice. I just requested a key for it on Keymailer, and I'll think about it. And if I don't get a key, I'll probably buy it. I'll definitely buy it if I don't get a key. Okay. Well, let's move on to the next category then. Our next award, I should say. And our next award is the biggest video game flop of 2017 that isn't Evolve.
Yeah, there's been a few of them, actually. And I thought about putting Lawbreakers on here at first because, that's kind of the obvious one. But it's not as high profile as what For Honor was. For Honor had the marketing behind it. It had the momentum. And it went out of the starting gate, tripped, fell flat on its face, and has recovered a little bit since the original development head has left. But it still hasn't really recovered enough to be able to say that isn't a flop. And I think the key problem here is the fact that there's no dedicated servers. It's all peer-to-peer, and this is a fucking fighting game where having strong connection to your opponent is a requirement. Can it work in one-on-one fighting games? Well, yeah, but you still have a lot of problems in those. And having and expanding it to a full, the primary mode that they focused on was the 3v3, wasn't it? With the MOBA pushing style.
It's 4v4.
4v4. I couldn't remember if it was 3v3 or 4v4, but that's a lot of network traffic. especially when it's Ubisoft handling it. And Ubisoft isn't exactly, efficient with a lot of things. So having a crappy netcode is hardly surprising with a Ubisoft game.
Indeed.
I mean,
I liked.
I was about to say, I didn't really care for For Honor. I'm not a huge fighting game fan. I have like battle rights, so I can get into that sort of game. But it's just my time with the beta. I was already hitting people that were using lag switches to teleport around, and the way that they were handling just lag in general, where the client seemed to always trump anything that the other people said. So if a person lags and says, "Oh, well, I'm behind them now," well, the host, assuming they aren't the host, is like, "Well, fine, you're behind them now. See what I care." And it made the launch just nosedive. Granted, the Steam charts are the final word on the number of players because this is a Uplay title. But they've been struggling to get back above 1,000 players for quite a while now. They have spiked a couple times during major updates, but they've always settled back down to about 1,000, enough to have a stable player base. But I'm sure it's nowhere near what they expected.
Yeah, I considered putting For Honor as mine, but I thought about it a little bit and chose something else. But I liked For Honor. The biggest problem that I had with For Honor was that it very quickly became pay to win.
Oh yeah, there's also that as well.
Because you could buy loot, whatever they were, loot packs or boxes or whatever they were in that game, and your player skill mattered very little because the top tier gear gave so much of a boost in to your power and your health and so on and so forth in the mode that honestly was the most fun, which is that MOBA mode. Like, it had the 1v1, 2v2, 4v4 fights where that everyone's gear was just cosmetic, but honestly the most fun was the MOBA mode with the capturing and killing all of the mobs and all of that, the push-pull. But that was the mode where the gear actually affected the gameplay, and it very quickly destroyed the gameplay.
That, and also there were some reports of the DLC classes just being horribly overpowered.
There are also lots of bugs that they never fixed, glitches and things. Because there was someone, we had this on as a news topic earlier in the year, someone who won a tournament by using several people winning tournaments by using various glitches or bugs.
Some of the videos for those did not show the game all that well.
No.
You can imagine the PR person in Ubisoft, because I'm pretty sure this was a Ubisoft ran tournament. Was expecting seeing some excellent fights, but instead they were using the same exploits that were being just abused over and over and over again. So you saw, like 2 moves. Yeah.
So, yep, I almost considered For Honor also for my biggest disappointment of the year. Just because it was another game I was greatly looking forward to. I mean, they marketed the game super well. The Pirate King that kept coming up on stage at events to talk about the game with his cane and
that was the
braided black beard.
Yeah, that was the lead developer, and it sounds like he had some decent ideas, but had no idea how to implement them properly because he fucked up.
Either that, or this could have been one of the cases where the publisher, i.e. Ubisoft, came in and messed with the game. Because there have been reports from games that that developers haven't been allowed to do what they wanted, and the developers' ideas were better, but the publisher said, "No, you have to do this."
Our focus groups say this.
Yeah, there was an episode of the Jimquisition from earlier this year where he had a few developers who had said that what was the the game with Adam Jensen in it, where that he's like a cyborg. The one that came out this year. Yeah, Deus Ex. Thank you. The most recent Deus Ex game, the publisher came in at the last like month of development and was like, "Yeah, you have to put in a microtransaction system. We have to have it. You have to tweak these things," and made him cut out some parts of the game for DLC. And like they had everything ready to go, but the publisher made him do it. Otherwise, they were gonna can the game or be in breach of contract or something like that. So, I mean, I'm not saying that Ubisoft came in and ruined it, because Ubisoft actually makes some pretty decent games that typically fall apart on the technical level, like bug-wise, or from having shoehorned in microtransaction systems.
Yeah, like this one.
Yeah, like this one. So, who knows where it fell apart, but it fell apart and it made me sad. But no, my game for biggest video game flop that isn't Evolve was Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, personally, I like Mass Effect Andromeda, but I also didn't play it until after they had fixed a lot of the big problems with the game, like people's faces sliding off and
some of the derp walks.
Yeah, the derp walks.
Oh, there were so many GIFs when that game came out.
Yeah, I didn't play it until May, June, and it released in March, and it was pretty well fixed by April. But still, I mean, Mass Effect Andromeda was a huge commercial flop, and it was a critical flop because it was, one, released too early, and two, the game ends on a cliffhanger, which obviously is to set it up for a sequel.
Or DLC.
Or DLC, but the game flopped so hard that was canceled, and the cliffhanger is being resolved in a graphic novel.
And the fact that they may have killed the Mass Effect franchise for a while.
Yeah, this game performed so poorly that they are shelving Mass Effect for a little while to go retool and figure out what they want to do with it going forward.
I still like my idea for the beginning of the next Mass Effect game. You have all the derpiest moments of Ryder, the derp walks and everything, and then all of a sudden you hear a loud gasp and the screen cuts away to a character waking up, and it was just all a bad dream.
Yeah. That would be one way to write it off, for sure. But, yeah, it was such a huge flop that it's going to cause, a ripple effect into the series of potential future games. Which is really sad, because Mass Effect series is my number one favorite series of games of all time. Just because of the stories that they tell. And I have been quite pleased with the Andromeda story, and I liked where that they were taking it, but apparently obviously they're not going to take it there anymore.
Yeah, well, now we know why they were shipping certain people off to Andromeda. They were a little too derpy. But it makes you wonder, why would they want them to be able to preserve different races? The derpiest of the derps?
Who knows? I don't know what they would do with Mass Effect going forward, because the problem with doing prequel stuff, everyone is always going to know where that's going to go. And the problem with doing anything in the Milky Way galaxy post Mass Effect 3 is they're going to have to pick a canon ending and say that that's what happened, and that will piss off 2/3 of their audience. At least. So
they could always go Elder Scrolls and say all the ones happened.
They could do that.
That's actually what happened in the Elder Scrolls series, is that was it the first Elder Scrolls game or the second? There was several different endings to the game, and their solution for the next one would basically say that reality was shattered and all of them were happening simultaneously.
I can handle that. Probably the canon ending they would go for Mass Effect is that all of the Reapers just got blown up. That one makes the most canon sense anyways. But, I mean, you could do so much in that universe. You don't even have to do anything crazy. You could just tell stories in that galaxy with the political climate and things that exist, because they did such a good job, BioWare did, of building a living, breathing world to be a part of. Oh. So if you've played the other games, you have a sense for what the world is like, the galaxy. Just, do a space opera and drop something in there somewhere.
Well, what do you think about a more localized story where you're not galaxy hopping? So you could be more isolated in the story and just say it's happening during this point of the Mass Effect main series and have it just be a side story.
That would be great too. I mean, there's plenty of huge areas that go underutilized because it is a galaxy hopping story. I mean, you could use the Citadel as the main area for a story and just use different areas of it.
Or even just tie it to like a single solar system or a couple solar systems.
Yeah, or even a single planet. You know, there's some pretty big planets that have multiple places and things on them that get referenced that you never go to. So, yeah, you could do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, but too busy making dirt faces.
Indeed.
Or I should say placeholder phases that aren't supposed to be in the final product, but they spent too much time chasing the procedural generation line. The Mass Effect Andromeda development, I think, is going to be one of those stories that is we're going to hear for a very long time. Supposedly, they spent a long time working on procedural generation, trying to make a truly random galaxy where the story still makes sense, but they just were never able to get it done or never able to get it working right. So Mass Effect Andromeda, as we saw it, was just over a year and a half of development time, which is nowhere near enough time for a game as massive as a Mass Effect game.
Indeed. It didn't have enough mass.
Yeah, we saw the effect. Huh?
But,
So, moving along to other things that we didn't really care for. Well, I guess for me in this case. Other things we didn't really care for. Our least favorite game club game. Our monthly game club is where we both play the same game and see what we think about them. And this is the one that we like the least in that, series of 12, because we do include the December Game Club in this, even though we haven't talked about it just yet.
Yeah. So, I was real close to picking yours, the one that you picked. Mm-hmm. Real close, because I didn't like it either. But I didn't like it because I didn't think it was very good. Mine that I chose was Rebel Galaxy, and I didn't like Rebel Galaxy because it gave me essentially video game blue balls. And I'm still mad at it for that.
Damn.
Because whenever I opened that game for the first time, and the soundtrack started playing, and the visuals were on, and the explosions, and I laughed, I giggled, I was so ready, and then the soundtrack changes, and you get this very Firefly vibe from it, you know, space cowboy, space western, and I was very excited for that too, and I was really looking forward to the mix of the, you know, crazy pants, rock ballad, blowing up spaceships, and then the space cowboy theme and aesthetic, and it just let me down, and all of that. It promised too much. It was all face and no trousers.
I don't think it was that bad a game. I think that it set itself up as being a more structured game than what it really was, and it comes off as more of a sandbox game where it's all the bad parts of Freelancer, where you have to go and grind out to be able to get over the wall to unlock the next story mission. Over and over and over again, where just getting through the first solar system, because it's actually only, I would say, about 20 different solar systems. Pretty small, actually, for, this style of game. But each one is procedurally generated, which we didn't even realize I didn't realize until about halfway through the game club. And you didn't realize
I didn't realize at all.
But it does make sense now because there's no real clear lanes. So you were constantly getting knocked out of warp. And it's a sandbox. It's not a bad game, but I was looking for something more story oriented, or even more story pushing. In Rebel Galaxy, was just Okay, well, go do random things for quite a while. Never mind the fact that your aunt's probably being tortured right now. I mean, that's perfectly fine. You need to go, get another ship. That one's kind of shit. No. The one that you just upgraded to, that's still not good enough. Upgrade again. Okay, now get some better stuff.
Yeah, and see, I'm perfectly okay with that loop. I'm fine with that. Doesn't bother me. Do it all the time. I'm going to talk about another game later on that's basically that loop, but ramped up to 11. But, I mean, Rebel Galaxy just promises so much right off the bat, and then it never delivers. And I don't like being disappointed. And I'm very disappointed in you, Rebel Galaxy. And therefore, you garnered my least favorite Game Club game of the year.
Yeah, mine. Well, if we get mail, we may get some hate mail I may get some hate mail for this one because this was the art house game that we did that I really didn't like. Shadow of the Colossus.
Send me mail too. Yeah, I didn't like it either. Send me mail too.
Shadow of the Colossus. It's one of those games that everyone talks so highly about as. It's one of those games that always seems to make the best, games of all time, or the game. Why games should be considered art. I just don't get it. It's jank. It doesn't really feel all that good. I would call it a puzzle platformer more than anything, really. Supposedly there's a story there, but you have to really dig for it. It's boy, I'm going to use this phrase. It's the same model, essentially, that Dark Souls use, where, yes, there is a story if you dig into the lore of what the world building is, but beyond that, if you don't do that, it's just, a series of boss fights. And I will say that I am impressed with just the scale of it, just how well they emphasize the scale of things, especially in the PlayStation 2 era, towards the end of the PlayStation 2 era. But that's really the only positive thing I have to say about this game.
Yeah. I will agree with you on the jank mechanics and things like that. It doesn't play well. Considering the time period that it's from, it is a very good looking game.
Yeah.
And it did have some very grand scope and scale to it. And there's some interesting story in there when I looked it up on the Wikipedia page because I didn't make it through the game because it played so poorly. But yeah, I didn't play it new. I assume that it was just as jank new as it was now, but maybe it would have been more forgiving at the time just because, technology and things advance as we go, and in general, game design gets better. But yeah, it doesn't hold up in 2017. It was not good.
Well, they're re-releasing it, and they're completely changing the color palette. Have you seen that?
No, I have not. I knew they were re-releasing it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's... they're taking away all the saturation and they're making it nice and bright.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that because it has that sort of, washed out, dreamlike, look. And that's, what I liked most about it was the look. Because you are right. It is very graphically, stunning for the time. But, yeah, it's just, it seems like even they don't get it.
Yeah.
Which it's really a shame because I wanted to understand why people love this game so much. And I don't get it. Are we old?
Yep. Maybe I'm old.
No, we already did that award.
Right.
Maybe we're taking a break.
Indeed. And as this is the final break, this is going to be the final word from our sponsor, me.
Yeah, I hope you gave yourself a pretty decent advertising rate. Yeah.
Oh, it was great.
Did we get a lot of money out of this deal?
Oh, we got so much money out of this deal, you wouldn't believe it. Hello everyone, this is going to be the last time that you hear a sponsored segment from yours truly. I just want to say that I hope everyone had a good 2017, at least as good as possible. I know that for our listeners in the United States, that there have been many things that have contributed to the dumpster fire of 2017, but I know that personally, in my own life, I had a pretty decent year, and I hope that you guys did too. I hope you have a good 2018 going forward as well, and here's to hoping that things on the grander stage of life start turning around and progressing towards the better. But regardless, I wish you all the best, and I think of you in my heart every day. Alrighty, and we are back to the VGL Award Show 2017, and our first award of the last block is the Gilded Bird Award for the biggest dick move of the year.
Yeah, the one that you just...
This was your category.
The one that you just want to flip the person off, and this is a more targeted award. The Balderdash Award is more conceptual, vague ideas. This is the rule is you have to be able to flip them off. And for me, well, I guess you would be able to flip off the head of the WB for all the shit surrounding Shadow of War. I mean, this was kind of the harbinger of the fall AAA lineup. But how do you fuck up giving to charity? I mean, really?
Yep.
But they somehow found a way because they had that. They had all the loot boxes. And it's kind of gotten lost in all the mess that Battlefront 2 became after that. But, WB definitely has their own spot in this. So, fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them.
But yeah, I think the whole charity thing is really what puts them over the edge for me. The fact that they wanted to sell a memorial DLC just reeks of bad taste. If they wanted to do that, granted, I still think they should have done, give a couple bucks for every sale up to a certain point, and that would have been perfectly fine. Nobody would have said a bad thing about them. But selling it is one thing, limiting it to the United States is another, then limiting it to certain states and not even saying it outside of microscopic text on the trailer. Oh. Fuck you, WB.
Yeah, fuck you, WB. So mine is Battlefront 2. Fuck you, EA. You took a game series that was great.
Franchise.
And took a game franchise that was great and made it shitty by taking a $60 premium game and making it a free-to-play style game with the entire progression of the game being based around loot boxes and buying power from those loot boxes. And you fucked it up so bad that everyone now is asking the government to get involved to fix it. That's how bad you fucked up. You have changed the landscape of gaming for forever because of this. Something is going to give one way or another, and now that the government's involved, it's going to be pretty difficult to get them uninvolved and have you guys fix this shit on your own. And honestly, I don't believe that you're capable of fixing it on your own at this point, because game companies have just become too greedy.
It's a shame that there's not some sort of regulatory body, electronic. I'm trying to think of an acronym for this.
Yeah, some sort of rating board that exists. Just can't think of it though. Oh well.
Well, I'm sure it
basically
would have kept the government out of the of regulating video games in the 90s for violence, but yeah.
So fuck you guys for fucking it up for everyone. But I mean, ultimately, if you can't do it, the government will. So. Oh, yep.
Yeah, you done fucked up.
You done fucked up, EA. with your Battlefront 2 greediness. So, flipping you off right now. I'm flipping off my computer screen.
Hey, put that thing away. All right. Well, next up is the I'll Be Back Award. This is a game that you plan on returning to for really any reason. It could have been, an early access game that, it has promise, but you want to play it when it's more complete. Something that you don't really have time to get into right now, or, something that just you want to be able to enjoy later on.
Yep, and I put Grand Theft Auto 5 on this
little surprising
list.
Considering your rant earlier.
Yep, I really do want to finish the game. I've enjoyed the story mode. I enjoy the single player. I think that they did a lot of good things with the heists and stuff. I just got such a bad taste in my mouth trying to play the multiplayer so that I could, play with my friends. But I want to go back to it and finish the story. I don't want to leave it unfinished. Because there's just a lot of good stuff in there. And, I'm still, every time I go to pull it up, I'm like, but GTA Online sucks. So, enough time is going to have to pass for me to sort of get past that. So, I want to come back to it and finish it, sometime in 2018. But I considered quite a few games for this list, but most of the games that I play anyways don't really have definite ends. It just kind of stops whenever you're ready to stop. So, and I just want to finish video games. I've been through a phase in the last couple of years, so I didn't really finish video games that I started. And I want to finish games that I started that I enjoyed. So, I want to come back to GTA 5 and finish the storyline once the sort of bad taste of GTA Online is gone from my, out of my mouth. So, sometime early to mid 2018, I'll probably finish it up.
All right. Well, mine is a game that I played a fair amount and then just sat down because I hit a dry spot in the content, and it's going to have an update in the coming year. So it'll be a good time to pick it back up. Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is a farming sim, just like, Harvest Moon, and inspired by the older Harvest Moons. And I put it down whenever I hit the first winter. And the first winter, I would say, is the driest portion of the game, content-wise, because you don't really have a lot that you've built up yet. And the Harvest Moon style game, the Stardew Valleys, they are all built around this cycle of building up and having these reward cycles. And because there's not a lot to do during the winter, at least your first winter, outside of going to go fishing, which you do know me, I do love my fishing, or really go play around in the mines. And I could hear Jared's erection.
Wink.
And it's winking at me. I didn't want to fish for, I think the month is 15 days, if memory serves me right. I can't remember right off the top of my head. But, I just didn't want to sit down and do it for that long. And, I set it down and then I went on to something else and then went on to something else. But every time I see more info about the upcoming patch that also adds multiplayer, by the way, it makes me think, I really should finish Stardew Valley. Because it does have technically an end, but it's also endless. So it's one of those that the story does come to an end, but you're able to continue playing afterwards. And it's been on my radar for a while. I need to go back and finish it at some point, so I will be back.
I'll be back.
Thank you, Arnold. So, moving along to to a very appropriate category now, the Uncanny Valley Award after that impersonation.
Indeed.
Yeah, we were in agreement on this one, and this one's kind of the clear choice, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, so we both picked Mass Effect Andromeda, although I'm interested as to what your reason is for it.
Me, it's just all the broken animations on launch. There's nothing I saw that even came close to just, how uncanny it was. And it just, I had trouble thinking of anything that came remotely close, so I gave it to it.
Okay, so I gave the Uncanny Valley Award to Mass Effect more in the actual lineup of what the Uncanny Valley is, which, if you're unfamiliar, the Uncanny Valley is sort of this area where that animation or graphical fidelity is pretty much spot on. Like, it's almost real, but it's just close enough to not that your brain feels like something is wrong with it. And so it's got just this weird... It's just uncanny.
And that's why the animations were so game-breaking to me. It was that, just seeing how the characters moved, it just, yeah.
Right. So me, having played it after they fixed all of that stuff, the graphical fidelity and the animations and everything, once they got them working properly, were really, really good. Incredibly realistic. Lifelike. The conversations whenever you're talking to people and it sort of zooms in on your conversation, you can see their faces really closely. The animations are spot on, feel very lifelike, but it's just a little off because they didn't get the eyes quite right. And so when you get in those conversations and you're talking to different characters, like, you look at their eyes and you're like, you're dead inside, aren't you? Your eyes are just wrong. And they're not like crazy, weird, derpy, googly eyes anymore because they fixed that. But it's just a little, like, they don't quite have that depth to them whenever you look into a real person's eyes. So it gives you that kind of weird, this isn't real, but it's really close to feeling real feeling. It's much less noticeable with the aliens because they have the same quality of animation and stuff applied to them, but because they're not human, your brain's going, oh, this isn't an alien anyways, so fuck it, I don't care what their eyes look like. So, but yeah, Mass Effect did a really good job, but just a little off. So, but yeah, I was curious as to what you were going to say because I knew you hadn't played it, so I didn't know if you were going to be using this for a joke.
No, I wasn't using it as a joke. It's seriously the animations. Because that's such a big part of the Uncanny Valley is how these more photorealistic characters move. And just seeing some of the even saying early animation makes it sound like, oh, we're seeing pre-release stuff. No, this was post-released. But yeah, it just was so off that it just, ugh.
Right. I got you.
So I was in the definition of the Uncanny Valley.
Yes, you were. Okay, well, let's move on to our next award category, which is the...
is this one mine, or...?
Well, you went two in a row, so right. I'll do this one. And it is the Best Game Club Game of 2017. Rage already explained what the Game Club was earlier in the show, so you can just go ahead and say what yours was and why.
Yeah, I was torn between actually mine and yours, because yours was also up there, but I didn't want to be in agreement. Mine is the visual novel that we did for February, if I recall correctly, If My Heart Had Wings. It's one of those stories that you really... I don't want to spoil it too much, even though, we did go in depth on at least one of the storylines because of the Game Club, but it's also been nearly a year now. But just the struggles of the girl we both ended up chasing kind of hit home for me. Her seeing her friends drop off because she was in a wheelchair. Had a similar thing happen to me, and it just, it hit home for me. And it stuck with me. And it's also been a game I've been intending to go back and do the other storylines. Only down part of it is that some of the animations where they do some 3D graphics in a visual novel engine are jank, but it's not that important. And they did censor it in the North American release, but there is a roundabout way to get around that. But overall, I've really enjoyed If My Heart Had Wings.
Indeed. If My Heart Had Wings was a good one. It was not in my consideration for top of the year, But honestly, I felt like we played a lot of really good games for Game Club this year. So
it was between this one, yours, and actually Portal 2. But Portal 2 lost points because I already played it. So, it didn't have the impact for me.
Yeah. So mine was Life is Strange. This game hit me so hard. We've played a couple of Game Club games with really deep, hard-hitting stories that have made me cry or emote. But, God, Life is Strange. Every single episode of that had a moment, at least one moment. Some of it had more than one moment where I was in tears or just feeling anxiety and pain in my heart, because they don't pull any punches with the hard-hitting moments of this game. And not only that, but they do them really, really well, so that it feels very serious, even though it's a game.
Yeah, they were very realistic with how the characters talked.
Yeah. How they
it didn't feel like fellow
talked.
kids to me. Granted, there's been people I've seen that talked about, the dialogue is so cringy. Well, it's teenagers.
Yeah, some of the dialogue is a little weird, but I mean, I have teenagers that I know.
I absolutely loved Max.
That speak that way. Yeah, I did love Max.
Her doing Gollum. The Gollum impersonation just had me cracking up.
Yeah, but I mean, the key or the core mechanic to the game too is really interesting and inventive for this style, this Telltale style of game, because the core mechanic is that Max can rewind time, so you can make multiple decisions and see how things play out and pick whichever result that you want, and then they turn that on its head later on in the story. But the only part of it where that it kind of falls flat is the ending.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say most of the fifth episode in general. Do you think this would have been a better game if they had it be a 4-episode series?
No, I liked the fifth episode. I know a lot of people don't because it's weird.
I think the nightmare sequence in general, it feels very out of place, and it feels like trying to pad out what would have been a shorter episode.
Yeah. Perhaps. But I did like it. I felt like that it went well enough. But yeah, this game just, man, so heavy. That's the longest Game Club we've ever had. We spent 4 hours talking about
like
Life
that,
is Strange?
because we broke down every single episode.
Yep. It was so good. So good. Easily the top of the list. I didn't even have to give it a second thought. And there were quite a few good games that we played this year. Like I said, Brothers was an excellent.
Yeah, it also lost impact for me because that was my second time through. Oh, well, let's go down the list. I mean, we had FTL Faster Than Light, If My Heart Had Wings, Valkyria Chronicles, Life is Strange, Shadow of the Colossus, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, Portal 1 and 2, Transistor, Crossout, Alan Strange, Rebel Galaxy, and the current one is Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah.
So some real hard hitters, actually.
Yeah. But man, Life is Strange just walked off with it. So good.
Yeah,
I kind of want to go back and play it again and just see if I can get anything new out of it on another playthrough. But that's a pretty big commitment, because it took me something like 14 hours to play through all 5 episodes.
Well, you also it sounds like you said and did everything. Because there's a lot of small stories that was in that game that you could easily miss if you didn't poke around everything.
I did miss a few small things, but I tried to find everything. Mm-hmm. Every time you'd go into the dorm room, I'd go into everyone's room, if possible, and see if there was anything new in there. But, yeah, easily my Game Club game of the year.
Yeah, so are you going to play Before the Storm?
I don't know.
I'm not. I have to admit, I'm not interested in it because it's Chloe before she grew as a character. And all the promo material just turned me off from the game, sadly.
Yeah. I'm interested in playing it, but I don't know if I'm interested enough to really buy it. Like, I want to know what happens just because I'm really invested in that story. But ultimately, I'd rather know what happens to Chloe and Max after.
Yeah.
Because I picked the ending where that they got together.
Yeah, see, and I had the opposite ending, which was far more fleshed out. Because I did do both endings look at both endings to see, what they were. And the, Max saves Chloe was just, pretty much drive off into the sunset, and that was it. Max saves Arcadia Bay, was a very long sequence and felt like the ending that they intended, and then they realized, oh crap, people may want to have a choice in this. And didn't really flesh out the second ending.
Yeah. And that may be true. Quite possibly could be true, but I genuinely fell in love with the relationship between Max and Chloe, and I just couldn't bear to undo it, even though it would be for the greater good, even though I think morally it was the right decision to make, the ending that you chose. But I just...
I always looked at it,
couldn't
not
do it.
Just, a very cold greater good, this morally is the right thing. If I recall correctly, that's what Chloe wanted.
Yeah.
So saving Chloe was the selfish choice, strangely enough.
Yeah. But that's just how connected I got to it. It was, I chose the needs of the one as opposed to the needs of the many.
Yeah, you were definitely not Spock in this one.
I was not. My emotions ruled my decision that day. But, yeah.
Yeah, plus Max had to go save her boyfriend.
Yeah. Did you kiss him?
Yes.
I totally kissed him. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, but then you let him die to have your girlfriend.
Well, yeah. Because, Chloe, she's my girl. Gotta be my girl.
Yeah, we're ending up... this is the longest I think we talked on one of these.
Well, that's fitting. But we can move along if you're ready.
Okay, so moving along to our favorite game played in 2017.
Yeah,
and this category is what we've played in 2017. Does it have to be released in 2017?
Yeah, I had a really tough time picking this one. I went back and forth between quite a few games because, I really, really enjoyed Mass Effect. I really enjoyed continuing to play games like Factorio and Transport Fever. I've thoroughly enjoyed playing Divinity with you, despite the problems that we've had with that game and being able to, here lately, find time to record it. And the list goes on. I could sit here and rattle off another 10 or 12 games that I really enjoyed playing this year, like Cuphead or Spin Tires, the Spin Tires Mud Runner, the new one, or, on and on and on. There's been plenty of games that I've spent a lot of time with this year. But here recently, the last few weeks, the game that has been dominating my playtime is Elite Dangerous. And the changes that they have made since I played that game 2 years ago, all of the additions that they've made, all of the things that they're doing to continue to build the lore of that game, just the mood that I'm in here lately for wanting to play space games and things like that. Sort of around the time I started playing Freelancer again and wanting to find this, perfect space game, Elite Dangerous just popped back up, and God, is it good. It is so good and so fun to play.
And also getting disappointed in Rebel Galaxy.
Yeah. But here lately, they've been running an event, or a world event. The Thargoids, which are the aliens from the Elite series, have started openly attacking human space stations. And I was just playing, and there was a news alert from the in-game news service called Galnet News that was like, an emergency headline. Thargoids have attacked this space station and this space station, calling on any commanders available in the area to come help with evacuations. So I refitted one of my ships as a passenger carrying vessel and headed over to the space station, and it was utter chaos. Like, the station was spinning starting to spin out of control and it was breaking apart. And you go inside and there was debris everywhere and half of the landing pads weren't working. And like the whole thing was on fire. Your ship was taking heat damage if you weren't using heat sinks to keep that under control. And there was like panic radio chatter and people, like other commanders everywhere helping, and like people were forming a line like, we gotta save these people. And it's just, they've done such a good job building this living, breathing world, and they treat all of this so seriously, and the other players get into it. And this is just one of many things that I've discovered since I've come back, that they've been adding and changing and just making the world bigger, giving you more things to do besides just earning money for your next ship upgrade or whatever. It really does feel like a big, breathing galaxy as different factions interact, and they've added many new systems since I've come back that add depth and complexity to the game. It's probably the closest I've played to a game scratching the space itch as EVE Online, but because it's not designed as a grindy MMO to keep you going, I'm getting a lot of the same satisfaction from playing the game, but it doesn't dominate my life. I don't feel like I constantly have to be playing. I've been playing it a lot here lately because I enjoy it, but I'm not waking up going, oh god, I've got to get on because I have to be the first one to get out in the field today to make sure that I can fill up all of my stuff and take it back to the base to process my resources or whatever. I just log on, and I'm like, all right, let's check the news, see if there's any events going on. If there are, and they seem interesting, I'll go do it. And if not, then I'll work on some missions, or go mine, or do some trading.
Sounds like me with Warframe.
Yeah. It's just a very good combination of chill out, relaxing game. But also, it's something that I'm invested in. So, I mean, Elite Dangerous is by far my favorite game played in 2017. And in the last couple of weeks, technically Steam says I've probably played for like 60 hours or so, but it's got a launcher, and I've left the launcher up a couple of times. I've probably played it 30 hours in the last 2 or 3 weeks, which is a lot.
Let's be honest, that's just
sure.
an excuse that you're using.
I don't know, maybe 40 hours total. It says I've played 72 hours in the last 2 weeks. So 40 to 50 hours would be actual playtime, with the rest of that being I've left the launcher open a couple of times overnight.
Sure you did.
So, yeah. I mean, it was as shitty as 2017 was in the gaming industry. I played a lot of really good games this year.
Yeah, but the thing is that a lot of your games weren't released in 2017.
That's true. But I'm trying in my head to take away some of the pain of 2017. And it's working for me. What about you?
Well,
what is your favorite game?
Mine is one that you mentioned, Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition. Now, this game has pissed me off more than once, just from bugs and how they set up the story, where there was a forced stealth section just was absolutely infuriating. That said, between the combat and the co-op, it's been my favorite gaming experience, and my favorite gaming that I've done in 2017.
Yay! You like to play games with me.
For now.
For now.
Granted, whenever you get on your crafting stint and we're in town for a few hours, it does get a little old. But we are at pretty much the end of the game, I think. That's the thing, is that the game is broken up. I would say 3 major maps. That would be fair, right?
3, 4 maps? Do you count?
Well, I wasn't counting like little dungeons and that sort of thing. I was talking about major overworld maps.
Yeah, but I was thinking of the homestead. Were you
No.
counting that as well? Okay, so then yeah, so far there's 3.
Yeah, and the first one was actually very well done. Very, I would say, it made a lot of sense because it was clear a direction that you should head to. There was a level gradient that sort of was a trail of breadcrumbs for the content. And as you followed the trail of breadcrumbs, it unlocked more and more on the map, and you saw more and more of the game world, at least in that area. But it always kind of looped back around to the main town, so you could do your selling and that sort of thing. Then the second map was a little bit more cumbersome, to the point where we weren't able to find the exit for quite a while to move to the third map.
Yeah.
And the third map, it seems to be very small, doesn't it?
Yeah, the third map is much smaller than the other 2.
And it doesn't seem as well done. Granted, the town that we stopped in has some interesting stuff in it, but overall, it's a game that's been very front-loaded with its good content, but that's also the case of it being in early access, and the first act, that first map, was what was out there for a long time, so it had the most time to be polished. So I do understand why it's like that, but the co-op element of sitting around bullshitting and some of the random shit that we've done made up for most of the flaws.
Yeah. I agree. And yeah, like I said, Divinity was one of the games I thought about for this year. Also because of the combat system and you.
Aww.
No. Hugs, buddy. I'm going to hug my microphone.
I'm not falling for that one.
Yes. Hugging my microphone.
I need an adult. Help. And that brings us to our last award. Jared, are you done?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're done that quickly.
I'm good.
Poor Katie.
I'm fast. I can be fast.
Poor Katie.
Our final award for the night is the Video Game Logic Podcast Game of the Year Award for 2017. This one was difficult for us.
Well, this because of the rules we implied.
Yeah, it had to be a game that came out in 2017, and at least one of us had to play it. Had to have played it. We originally thought, well, both of us have to play it, but then we realized that was a really short list, and so we came up with a few choices. And I know I can see both of our nominees here, and they agree. But do you want to discuss our other choices?
Well,
honestly,
we only had one that was even a good choice, because the third one it didn't release this year, and it's still technically a beta. And just because it had a major patch, would have been, it would have been propping up again and again and again. It never. I don't think it was a real contender, to be perfectly honest. So our only other real contender would have been Spin Tire's Mud Runner. And that's mostly due to how they changed the mechanics. Graphically, it looks very similar.
Yeah, aside from a few just little tweaks, they didn't really improve the graphics, so to say.
Having trees sway and actually fall over as you pull them, or pull on them with the winch to try to unstick yourself in the mud is new. But outside of controller problems showing up on the screen, if you had two screenshots side by side, it would be damn tough for you to pick out which one is which. New versus old.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, we did consider it because we both played it. We both really enjoyed it. And we felt like they had done enough different with this release to definitely say it was its own separate experience.
Yeah, the mechanics under the hood was vastly different, to the point where it really caught you off guard when you tried it for the first time. And that was after hearing me talk about it.
Yeah. But I was caught off guard in a good way. Like, there was nothing, I don't think there's anything bad about the about MudRunner.
I would say probably the worst thing is the cockpit, how it's kind of tacked on. The cockpit view.
Yeah. Yeah. I think perhaps a better way to try and say what I was saying was that everything that they changed was an improvement. Everything that is better about MudRunner than the original. And yeah, the cockpit view is a little bit tacked on, but it still definitely has its usefulness, even in its current form.
Yeah, it definitely won't end up in the no school like the old school award.
Yeah. But, okay, then we only had one other serious contender, and we were going to go away and think about it and come back, but it turns out both of us put the same game on the list, so I guess
I had
really have to have any deliberation.
I had to think about it, and just, it was tough to really consider anything else. I looked at other awards trying to, like, am I overlooking something? And no, it's been kind of a crap year, to be perfectly honest. There hasn't been anything that I felt warranted Game of the Year outside of Cuphead.
Indeed, the Video Game Logic Podcast Game of the Year award for 2017 goes to Cuphead. Which honestly Cuphead was a surprise hit for me, because I typically hate the type of game that Cuphead is. I don't like platformers. I don't like things that are, skill-based, like get good type games. I don't like I like to just have fun and relax when I play video games nowadays. But Cuphead is so freaking good at what it does, and it's got that amazing hand-drawn art style and the wonderful jazz. It's not all jazz, but mostly jazz, 1930s sounding soundtrack. It's amazing. It's one of the best games that I played this year overall, and it certainly fits the criteria for the list because, obviously it came out in 2017.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to play it yet, and I've actually been trying to avoid as much gameplay as I can because I don't want how the bosses are beaten to be spoiled for me. But it's kind of the obvious choice, to be perfectly honest, because I don't have a modern console, so that takes out all the Nintendo stuff, because let's be perfectly honest, that's kind of the gem this year, which both, it kind of makes me happy to see Nintendo do well, but at the same time, really, Nintendo's the highlight.
Yeah. Does Cuphead on Steam have online multiplayer?
I don't think so.
That's so sad. I would buy us copies of Cuphead so that we could play together. Because I haven't beaten it. Katie and I have only gotten to the second, the game is divided into 3 islands that you go to and do fight all the bosses and stuff, and we're on the second island, and we're pretty close to having that one beat, I think. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we're still on the second island, so I haven't even beaten the game yet.
Yeah, it looks like no online multiplayer. I just wanted to double check that, but I was pretty certain it wasn't. It does say that they're looking at online multiplayer for future changes, but if there hasn't been anything yet, I doubt it would happen. Granted that it is happening with Stardew Valley, so
yeah, I'm not 100% sure how you would do it, just because I mean it is bullet hell, but I suppose that if each client is just in charge of what it is that they're dodging, having to dodge, and then it just keeps track of the damage cumulatively, I think it could be done. Might look a little weird to see your co-op partner fly through something that should have had them take damage, but you don't really have to worry about that because you gotta worry about what you're dodging.
Yeah, and it also really depends on how much lag, because if it was just between the two of us, that's not too far a distance.
Yeah, no, but it wouldn't be that bad.
I mean, granted, playing with someone in Australia, that would be a lot tougher.
Yeah.
Especially having to invert all the bits for it to work correctly.
Yes, absolutely, because that's how gaming works on the other side of the world. on the bottom of the world. Oh. But yeah, Cuphead. Cuphead is an excellent game. Excellent game. Very clear Game of the Year material. And as such, it is receiving one of the most prestigious awards in games, the Video Game Logic Podcast Award. And it's prestigious because I say it is, and I won't have anyone tell me otherwise. I'm proverbially putting my fingers in my ears and going, la 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 la.
You know, you keep that up and you may end up with a GOP candidacy.
Oh, that's a riot right there. I mean, I would accept a candidacy from the GOP. I just, if I somehow miraculously got elected, I would be the least Republican president ever. But yeah, if they want to nominate me, sure, by all means, I'll take a shot at politics. Be the most liberal fucking Republican ever. But that's a story for another time.
Oh. But yeah, I think that wraps us up. So, do we want to plug our stuff real quick? Not go too in depth?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just plug our stuff. If you want to find me on the YouTubes, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at JMA4707. If you want to see me stream some games on Twitch every now and then, you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. And if you want to be my friend on Steam, my Steam username is jarthur4707. I'd love to talk to you about the award show. What do you think about our nominees? And would you have nominated anything differently from us? Please feel free to write in and do so at any of the mediums that I mentioned above, or you can send us an email over at vglpodcast@gmail.com.
Or the Twitter VGL Podcast on the Twitter. And if you wish to let Jared know that you've listened to the awards, the password for the award show is Hydrobot.
I thought you were going to say fuck the Oscars.
No, that would have been too obvious.
Oh, fair play. Fair play.
And plus, that's like the highlight of the video game awards. Low rent, yeah. Tommy Wiseau. Well, if you wish to see what content I am producing at this point, I'm still in the process of getting up and going again. You can find me over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage, where I will have more content eventually, or just see me tweet who knows when, over at Gaming with CR on Twitter. And you already covered the email and Twitter, so I don't have to do that. If you wish to pay for this absolute madness, you can do so patreon.com/VGL podcast. Yeah, Jared's tux is very expensive. It is just the bow tie and nothing else.
Yeah.
Oh, please put that away. And if you wish to see the RSS feed, get the show notes, or just be able to drop us a line, possibly a little bit easier, you can find that over vglpodcast.podbean.com, or if you're listening to us on iTunes or on YouTube, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever else we are. Our intro and outro music is whatever Jared picks out of the folder by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work at incompetech.com. And no, that's not the name of the song. That's given Jared a few choices, and he hasn't figured out which one he wants, so I can't say which one it is exactly.
As always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye-bye now.
And congratulations to the award winners, and we'll see you next year.
See you next year, folks.